Israel successfully assassinated 3 of its most serious, dangerous enemies over the course of the summer in 3 separate operations that were so unexpected, so daring, so cunning that few people in Washington, Moscow, Beijing, and certainly not in Beirut or Tehran can understand how Israel pulled them off. Hi, this is Joel Rosenberg in Jerusalem with a YouTube exclusive report for the Rosenberg Report. Now, though the assassinations sparked intense coverage here in Israel and throughout the Middle East, they did not get nearly enough attention in the American or international media. And I was on a 2-month speaking tour across the United States, so while we covered all 3 assassinations from multiple angles on All Israel News, only on my August 29th episode of the Rosenberg Report was I able to deal with the assassinations and their implications for Israel and the region on my primetime show. But I want to unpack each of them a bit further because each of them are important for you to know about. It's important for you to know who these terrorist leaders were, why Israel targeted them, and how much damage their deaths have caused the Iranian regime, the Hezbollah terror organization, and of course, Hamas. Now, let's begin with Mohammed Deif. 59 years old. He was the commander of all Hamas military forces in Gaza. He was the 2nd highest ranking Hamas leader in Gaza. The 2nd person that was taken out was Fuad Shukr, who is effectively the chief of staff of the Hezbollah terror army in Lebanon. Now, they don't actually technically have a chief of staff of the army, but that's effectively what he was. Shukr was the 2nd highest ranking military official inside Hezbollah, and he was the right-hand man and chief military terror advisor to the spiritual and political leader of Hezbollah, Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah. Now, the 3rd of the 3 that were taken out this summer was Ismail Haniyeh. We're not sure if he was 61 or 62. There's some debate over exactly when he was born, but he was the head of Hamas. He was the highest ranking leader in the entire Hamas terror organization, and he was the face of sheer evil. Now, taking out any one of these 3 terrorist leaders would have been what we say in Hebrew is dayenu. This alone would be enough. But taking out all 3 required such precise, exact, specific intelligence that everyone in the region is stunned that Israel pulled it off. More on each of these assassinations in just a moment. But first, I want to say that in Israel's darkest hour, a lot of people are asking me, how can we help? How can we support Israel in its time of greatest need and be part of that biblical mandate found in Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, where God is speaking of blessing those who bless the people of Israel, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Well, a great way to do it is to partner with our sponsor of today's edition of the Rosenberg Report, Artza. Go to artzabox.com. Use the discount promo code RR15, Rosenberg Report 15, to get a 15% discount off the price of your Artza box. They are literally a taste of the Holy Land, and they come directly to your home in a beautiful box that contains potpourri, a range of all kinds of products made in Israel by all kinds of Israeli artisans, entrepreneurs, and small business owners. You're going to love them for yourself, for your family, and they make great gifts as well. Check it out. Go to artzabox.com, use the discount code RR15, Rosenberg Report 15, and I have no doubt that you'll love these boxes, these Artza boxes, as much as Lynn and I do. Now let's look a little bit more closely at who these terror leaders were, and we understand, by understanding them a little bit better, why these assassinations have been so important to Israeli security and so devastating to Iran and their terror proxies. Now, Mohammed Deif. Who was Mohammed Deif? Well, he died at 59 years old. He was the military commander of Hamas in Gaza. He was part of the Hamas terror organization for 30 years, and he lived in the shadows. There are almost no photos of him, yet we know that he was one of the masterminds of the October 7th invasion of Israel, and he trained and prepared and equipped the Hamas terrorists that did the invasion, about 3,000 of them, and Mohammed Deif is the guy that put together the entire plan. How are we going to outfox Israeli intelligence? How are we going to make it seem like Hamas has no intention of invading and then pull off this daring invasion on October 7th? That's Mohammed Deif. Now, he didn't do it alone, right? Yahya Sinwar, the top guy in Gaza, also was part of that mastermind. Born as Mohammed Masri in 1965 in the Khan Yunis refugee camp set up after the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. The militant leader became known as Mohammed Deif after joining Hamas during the first Intifada, or Palestinian uprising, which began in 1987. Now, Deif was arrested by Israel in 1989, Reuters said, and spent about 16 months in detention, a Hamas source told Reuters. Reuters goes on to say Deif had a degree in science from the Islamic University in Gaza, where he studied physics, chemistry, and biology. He headed the university's entertainment committee, how bizarre is that, and performed on stage in comedies. I see nothing funny about him. Hamas, Reuters continued, Hamas sources said that Deif lost an eye and sustained serious injuries in one leg in one of Israel's past assassination attempts. We believe that there were, by the way, that there were 7 assassination attempts until Israel took him out this summer. Picking back up with the Reuters profile, quote, his survival while running Hamas's armed wing meant that he was viewed as a folk hero by some Palestinians, unquote. One more quote from the Reuters profile, very interesting. Mohammed Deif's wife, 7-month-old son, and 3-year-old daughter were allegedly killed by an Israeli airstrike in 2014. Now, who was Fuad Shukr? Shukr was killed at 63 years old. He's widely considered a ghost because there was very few pictures of him, and very hard to track him down. Shukr was actually responsible for the bombing of the United States Marines barracks in Beirut on October 23, 1983. 2 massive truck bombers plowed into 2 separate buildings, a Marine barracks and a barracks for some other multinational forces, including French forces and UN forces. A total of 307 people were killed that day, back in 1983, including 241 Americans, 58 French citizens, 6 other civilians, and of course the 2 suicide bomber terrorist drivers. Now, the bombing was actually ordered by Iran, but it was carried out by Hezbollah, and it was directed and planned by Fuad Shukr. But the U.S., who lost 241 people that day, never tracked him down, never found him, never took the decision to kill him. The Israelis did. And where did they find him? They found Fuad Shukr on the 7th floor of a high-rise building in Beirut. Now, on the 2nd floor, reports say, Shukr had an office, but his bedroom, his living quarters was on the 7th floor, again, a building that nobody seemed to know about, but the Israelis did. And Israeli intelligence, apparently, according to foreign sources, lured Shukr back up to his 7th floor apartment by a phone call. And yet it wasn't a friend or an ally on the other end of that line. It was Israeli intelligence, and once they knew that Shukr was in his apartment, they fired a missile at him and took him out. Now, who was Ismail Haniyeh? Haniyeh, again, we don't know exactly when he was born, so he was either 61 or 62 years old when he was assassinated. But it's important for you to know who Ismail Haniyeh is, because he was the head of Hamas. I'm not saying the head of a division. I'm not saying one of the top guys. I'm saying Ismail Haniyeh was the head of Hamas. He was the highest ranking leader in the entire Hamas terror organization. Ismail Haniyeh was living in Doha, which is the capital of the tiny Gulf state of Qatar. Qatar is a country that's supposedly an ally of the United States, but was allowing Hamas senior leaders to live in high-rise luxury apartments with full protection. Now, how did Israel get to Haniyeh? Well, he was assassinated in Tehran in a very special and supposedly very secure government guest house, Iranian government guest house, set aside just for VIPs who were visiting Iran. Ismail Haniyeh had gone to Tehran to attend the inauguration of the new Iranian president and to meet just the day before with Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Haniyeh then retreated, or as it were, or retired, let's say, to this guest house, this government secure VIP guest house. And initial reports indicated that a missile or drone strike killed him. But actually, what we've learned in the weeks since that assassination is that actually a bomb was planted in Haniyeh's guest room where he was going to be staying. It had been planted by operatives months before. And so one of the things this raises is the question of how deeply has Israeli intelligence penetrated the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps and the Iranian top leadership, because if they knew exactly where he would be staying, because Haniyeh had stayed there at other times, if they knew exactly where, and they had some sort of operatives to be able to get into that building without anybody caring, it means that they appeared to be high-level Iranian operatives, security guards, something. It's just, we don't know. Hopefully, All Israel News, the Rosenberg Report will be able to break a story at some point when we find out. That's going to be fascinating. It's the type of stuff of the political thrillers that I write, of movies that get made, but it was true. And so Israel waited for the moment that Ismail Haniyeh would be in Tehran at that guest house, and in this case, their patience paid off, and the explosion went off, and literally nobody else in the building was killed. Now, these three assassinations are important, and I'm going to talk about them just for another moment, but I first want to give you some context. Israel's not the only country in the world that takes out terror leaders. Remember January 3rd, 2020, the assassination of Qasem Soleimani in Baghdad. Soleimani was 62 years old. He was the commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, and he was killed in a drone strike at the Baghdad International Airport. And who ordered that assassination of Iran's top terror leader? None other than President Donald Trump. July 31st, 2022, was the assassination of Ayman al-Zawahiri in Kabul. Now, al-Zawahiri was 71 years old. Who was he? He was the leader of al-Qaeda. He had been Osama bin Laden's deputy. He was one of the masterminds of the 9/11 attacks on the United States that killed nearly 3,000 people in New York, Washington, and Pennsylvania. Both Trump and Biden ordered these two terror leaders to be taken out by U.S. forces. You know, people often say, is assassination okay? Look, every government has not just the right, but the responsibility to protect its people and to bring justice to those that kill our citizens, right? And especially when these leaders are involved, these terror leaders are involved in continuing to plan terror operations to kill the people of a nation. And that's why the United States felt it was legally and morally justified to take out Qasem Soleimani, the top terror leader in Iran. And that's why President Biden felt that he was justified in taking out the number 2 guy during the 9/11 attacks, and of course the number 1 guy of al-Qaeda in the years since Osama bin Laden was assassinated. This is why this is important, because Israel's not the only country that does it. But Israel did it, and it doesn't just, I mean, it knows where a lot of terror leaders are, and they've had opportunities in the past to try to take these people out, but they haven't. But now, as we're 9, 10, 11 months into this horrific war, guided and directed and funded by Iran, using Hamas and Hezbollah, these leaders, these terror leaders, are fair game. And this has created tremendous devastation inside the leadership of Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas, right? Because these are not easily replaceable leaders. Okay, Qasem Soleimani was the top terror mastermind. What we're watching now is that people that Qasem Soleimani trained, recruited, funded, and armed, people like Mohammed Deif, people like Fuad Shukr, people like Ismail Haniyeh, now these people are being taken out one by one. And they have such clout in their terror organizations. They have such experience. They have such influence that when they are taken out, it's not easily, you know, it's not easy just to say, well, you'll be the next guy, right? The next guy under Ismail Haniyeh, the head of Hamas, is Yahya Sinwar. Sinwar's alive, but he is hiding, racing from tunnel to tunnel inside Gaza. Now, there's a recent report that Yahya Sinwar is actually hiding out in plain sight now, above ground, disguised as a woman, which for a Muslim terrorist, radical, jihadist man is humiliating. But he's doing that, why? Because he cares more about his own life than he cares about the Palestinian people of Gaza. And he doesn't want to be killed. He's fine with everybody else getting killed. He doesn't want to be killed. That's a coward. But Israel continuing to hunt him down. But the guy right next to Yahya Sinwar, Mohammed Deif, he's gone. And you cannot easily replace Mohammed Deif. And especially when the communication systems underground in Gaza are being so disrupted by Israeli forces. So again, I wish I'd had time when I was traveling. This all happened in mid-July, then late July. Things got announced in early August. And that's when I was traveling out of the United States, heading to the UK, and then back here to Israel. So I wanted to take a moment and just walk you through these three critical assassination attempts because they are so important. These three hits are not normal. The fact that they came within days, weeks of each other, not normal. The fact that Israel is on offense and seems to have turned the corner and is truly on offense and wiping out Hamas and even devastating senior levels of Hezbollah. And then when you add it to the intelligence that Israel had that recently stopped a Hezbollah operation to launch 6,000 missiles at central Israel, at Tel Aviv, this is not normal. I believe that God is supernaturally protecting us, but we're going to talk about that more in a future YouTube exclusive. Thank you so much for watching this YouTube exclusive. I hope that you'll share this link with family and friends on social media, that you'll hit like, and that you'll, of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that you'll watch the Rosenberg Report, the only primetime news program on American television made by Israelis in Israel, right here from Jerusalem. And you can watch the Rosenberg Report Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, on the Trinity Broadcasting Network, TBN. And you can watch it again at replays on Saturday nights at 9:30 Eastern on TBN. On behalf of all of our team here at the Rosenberg Report, thank you again so much for watching. Please keep praying for Israel and our neighbors. Please keep praying for safety. And thank you again for watching this YouTube exclusive for the Rosenberg Report. I'm Joel Rosenberg. God bless you.